Today I want to talk to you guys about one of my favorite genres in movies and in games of all time. And that is horror. The horror genre in movies and in video games has been one of my favorites next to sci-fi and fantasy. Growing up as a kid, liking horror was a taboo here. What I mean by this is that if you liked horror, you'll either be given the side eye or people will call you weird. Which is understandable because horror was not for everyone. But today I just want to share my love for the genre and sit down with you guys and talk about it a little bit. Gotta take a break from making videos about stuff I hate every once in a while, you know? For this video, I'll be segmenting it into different parts and talk about different movies and different video games. So make sure to check the timestamp to watch along. But before that, I want to give a brief explanation on why I like horror. The horror genre to me always fascinated me in more than a few ways. Sometimes I watch horror mainly for the blood and gore, trying to see how realistic or not realistic a movie can get it in that aspect. But sometimes I watch horror for the adrenaline it pumps into my veins when I see a character running away from a monster or a killer only to have them trip over nothing 2 seconds later. Sometimes I watch horror for the psychological aspect of it, or how the director or the developer plays with people's minds and creates these scenarios that in the real world would be too haunting to be true. Overall, what I'm trying to say is that the horror genre for me isn't something I put on just so I can relax. Oh god, no. But the horror genre for me gives me that psychological scare boost that I need every day. It's like a shot of whiskey almost every couple of days. But yeah, in short, that's why I like horror. With that said, let's get on with the first segment of the video. For this first segment, I want to talk to you guys about the differences between being scared and being creeped out by something. Creepy mostly talks about the atmosphere or the setting. Scary mostly talks about the action that's happening. Walking through a cemetery at night filled with fog is creepy. When something climbs out of a grave and starts chasing you, that's scary. Walking through a house filled with dolls is creepy. When the dolls start attacking you, that's scary. So now that we know the differences between scary and creepy, we can talk about horror that creeps me out. These types of horror really plays with my psyche and makes me think in ways that I usually never do. It invokes a sort of hopelessness or a sort of all-around-you feeling. It kind of creeps into you. An example of this is Donna Beneviento's house in RE8. During the first half of RE8, you get to walk around in Lady Dimitrescu's house, just walking around killing everything in sight with your inventory. But in Donna Beneviento's house, everything is taken away from you. This makes you feel like your power is restricted and taken away. You can't just shoot your way out of this one. You start off in this room and have to solve a puzzle to get out. During these puzzles, you start to hear recordings of your wife Mia and a baby crying. Already this starts to play with your psyche because in horror, hearing baby noises, specifically crying, is bad. It just fucks with our minds in ways that no other sound does. But this part in RE8 is the perfect example of being creeped out and it doing it right. It did it better than most video games have over the past year. So yeah, once you finish escaping this room, you start to get more freedom to walk around. That is, until it starts to get dark. You start to feel uneasy and anxious, and your vision starts to get limited. You can barely see an inch in front of your face. You feel like something is all around you. And when you travel down this long, dark hallway, you encounter it. This part of the game creeped the fuck out of me because I didn't know what to expect. With Lady Dimitrescu, I was expecting to fight her. You know, fight her daughter, and then she turns into a giant monster, etc., etc. It writes itself. But in Donna Beneviento's house, I wasn't expecting a giant fetus baby. That was the last thing I was expecting in one of these games. This, to me, creeped me out and was one of my favorite parts in RE8. The entirety of House Beneviento was my favorite part. It's a shame that it was so short, but it was amazing. I would love to play a game that is just entirely you solving puzzles while being chased by a giant abomination baby. After that, you get to go around the house that's filled with creepy dolls trying to find the real boss. But you don't fight it with a gun or a knife. You're only armed with scissors. But it's not like you can use the scissors and just fling it around like a knife normally. No, you only use it during specific times to encounter the bosses. So you're being attacked by these dolls while you're trying to find the boss. This portion of the game is my favorite. I like it more than Heisenberg's. And that's saying a lot. The fear and hopelessness this part invokes in me is so good for a horror game. It's just the vibes of it is just so good. Also, people are sipping after Lady Dimitrescu and her daughters, but nah, bro. Fucking Donna Beneviento, that's where it's at, bro. Speaking of creepy, long, dark hallways.
As the congressional debate over gun control flares up yet again, we regret to report the murder of a wife and her 2 children by their husband and father.
PT, or Playable Teaser, was a playable teaser of Silent Hills. A revival of the series that would have had you playing as Norman Reedus, was directed by Hideo Kojima, and was going to feature monster designs from Guillermo del Toro. It was like a dream come true for every horror fan. Was being the keyword. Unfortunately, the project was cancelled by Konami, and they essentially fired Hideo Kojima. Fortunately, we got a demo out of it, at the very least. In comes PT, a free demo only available to PlayStation. This game had people from all over the internet talking about it, and for good reasons. It managed to scare the pants off of everyone. But scaring wouldn't really be the word I'd use. See, there's nothing chasing you in PT. There's no giant monster or a giant killer or something with like a chainsaw or some shit. No, there's nothing chasing you. Not until people hacked the game and found out that something was following you from the very moment you started the game, but you can't see it because it's glued behind your camera. That shit fucking creeped me out when I found that out. This feeling of something always being behind you was one of the main reasons why this game felt creepy, and why I found it to be one of the greatest horror games that never existed. PT had a lot of scary and creepy moments. Moments like finding a fetus in a bathroom fucked me up when I first played that. Or moments like looking up and seeing Lisa just staring at you. It wasn't doing anything, it was just staring at you. Creepily, I might add. These are the creepy moments that I live for. The unexplainable aspect of PT is what I love about it. It's not afraid to go out of boundaries and just explore these different ideas. And that would have been one of the greatest games of all fucking time if Konami didn't fucking focus on their pachinko machines. It was always gonna be creepy, and it was always gonna be scary. Even though PT was a short demo, it made a huge impact on people's perception of horror and gathered a cult following, with people trying to remake it on the PC. Speaking of cult... Hi, welcome back to the second part of the video. Yes, this is recorded probably 2 weeks after the first initial one. Don't pay no attention. What? I have no beard, clean shaved. Don't worry. I'm never gonna shave again, but I have to because of school. This time, I'm gonna be talking about a movie instead of a game. I went into Ritual with zero expectations, or the premise, honestly. I didn't know anything about this other than just it looked cool. So when I went into it, I was expecting nothing. So when I sat down and watched this movie, I was pleasantly surprised how good it was. It's a movie about these 4 pals reuniting after the death of their friend and take a hike through the Scandinavian wilderness. After taking a few wrong turns, they end up in the heart of the forest and encounter a long-forgotten Norse legend. The premise is fairly unique to my knowledge, and it does take a while for it to ramp up in its scare factor, despite it being 1.5 hour long movie. But the scares in this movie are so well thought out, and sometimes they're jump scares, but they're not cheap jump scares. scares. There's actually a scene where the main character starts hallucinating, and the visual scares for this scene are very wild. I mean, just the CGI and the use of the sets is just, wow, this movie is like really good. I don't want to talk more about it, and I don't want to spoil anything, but I'd recommend watching this movie. Just go into it blind and just watch it. It's an extremely weird movie. Speaking of weird movies, okay, a little story time between me and the Grudge movies. When I was 5 years old, I was home alone because I didn't have school that day. My mom and dad went to work while I stayed at home and watched a bunch of movies and TVs. I know they're amazing parents. At the time, there was stuff like Shrek and SpongeBob, but there was also Pokemon, so you can imagine just how fragile of a mind I had as a kid. But on one fateful day, I decided to watch movies on a different channel. One that my parents told me not to go on. Back in the day, there was a channel that was primarily horror movies. So my 5-year-old smart mind decided to just one day sit down and watch movies on that channel while it was thundering outside. Oh yeah. It's all coming together. See, the movie in question was Ju-on the Grudge. No, not the American one, but the Japanese one. It was my first time ever being exposed to anything horror related. So as a 5-year-old kid, I was super tough and didn't even cry once. That was a lie. During the scene where the lady is looking through the window that had a bunch of openings through the newspaper and all the faces appeared, that shit scared me as a kid. But that's not the actual scene that scared me shitless as a kid. The scene that did that was the under the bed sheet scene, where this girl gets dragged under the bed sheets and disappears. That alone isn't scary, I know, but combine that with the storm that I was talking about earlier and have a lightning strike and turn the power off, and you get yourself trauma right there for my 5-year-old mind. Lightning hit our house, lightning just hit, and all of a sudden all the power went out, and it was during that scene. So it kind of scared me as a kid. I wasn't logical. I didn't think, oh shit, the power's out. I was thinking the Grudge was literally right behind me. From that day on, I've been scared of lightning and thunder. More than most people, but I still like rain. It's weird, but Ju-on was a very scary movie for me as a 5-year-old kid. This one is a weird one because Berserk isn't scary. It's not a horror manga per se, but it does have its horror elements like the monster designs and the gothic horrors in it. So for this part, I'm only going to talk about the monster designs, not the plot of Berserk, so don't worry. But with that being said, we can start with one of the most iconic monster designs in Berserk, the trolls. If you read Berserk, you know why I find the trolls scary. Especially in Berserk. If anybody has watched trolls in anime that isn't like a slice of life anime or some shit like that, you know exactly why we don't like trolls. Especially if you're a woman. In Berserk, trolls are these hairy ape-like creatures with black fur and a face that is a cross between a pig and a rat. Already scary right there. Here's the thing, in Berserk, they're smart enough to hold weapons like clubs and axes, but they're also strong, which means that they can easily kill a normal man. Or a whole village. Trolls in fiction like to do two things, and that's to eat and fuck. A little bit too much if you ask me. Their designs are one of the things that scares me the most because it's just a beast. A very horny beast that you don't want. Trolls don't know the meaning of no when it comes to that. But that's not the only disturbing creature or animal hybrid or beast in Berserk that likes to fuck a lot. Oh no. You also have the rape horse. Yes, you heard that right. The monsters of Berserk are so creepy in design. It's actually amazing that it came from one man's mind. And God bless that man. I know he's in heaven right now, but god damn it, dude. That guy just had so many designs in his head that just... it freaks me out, but it amazes me at the same time, you know? They're not just scary. They're nightmare-inducing and also strangely beautiful, detailed, and masterfully drawn. All of Berserk is masterfully drawn. So, I mean, hey, if you want to read Berserk, go ahead and read it for the story, but the art is just... Oh, yes. All in all, Berserk is masterfully drawn, but the monsters, oh, these motherfuckers are something else. Trolls are the bottom tier in terms of the scariest monsters in Berserk. It's truly amazing how scary they get, and I applaud Kentaro Miura for his work on Berserk. Unfortunately, he passed away earlier this year, and that kind of sucks, and I don't know if we're ever gonna find any more Berserk. Berserk is kind of in a place where it doesn't really need to be finished, but at the same time it does. It's weird. Don't talk to me about Berserk and the way it's supposed to be finished. There's a bunch of videos on fucking YouTube. Go watch those. It's sad that he passed away, but I'm glad we get to have such amazingly designed and detailed monster in an amazingly designed and detailed world. But yeah, that's gonna be it for me. I managed to go over some of my favorite parts of horror in media, but obviously not all of them. I could have mentioned a few others, like, I don't know, fucking Death Note and its monster designs, its fucking Shinigami designs. I could have talked about Dead Space and its horror design. I could have talked about many others. But hey, I don't want this video to be an hour long, and in the future I'll definitely make a part 2 about this. But for now, I think I talked a fair bit. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and if you do, please leave a comment in the videos. I'll see you guys real soon. Also, I am streaming on Twitch, so go ahead and follow me on that bad boy right down there. And if you have any horror that I should probably check out in the future, go ahead, leave it in the comment section down below. And also, give me your opinion on horror. Do you like it? Do you hate it? Just go ahead. That's going to be it for me. Hopefully you guys enjoy, and I'll see you guys real soon. But till then, don't be a stranger. Bye!